G'day everyone, welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark. My name is Mark, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the game coming up this weekend at Twickenham between England and the Australian Wallabies. Yes, Joe Schmidt's team is kicking off their autumn international campaign against England this weekend. It's going to be a very interesting game. Of course, England lost narrowly to the All Blacks last weekend. So let's get into the video and I'll share with you my thoughts. G'day everyone, welcome to the channel. If you are a regular viewer of mine, I just want to say thank you. I'm very grateful for you tuning in all the time to my channel. I do not take you for granted, and yes, I do read all of your comments. And if you're a newbie, well, welcome. I hope you stick around with us all here. We've got a fantastic global rugby community here on this channel. People all over the world, and a lot of new people coming into the great game of rugby for the first time this season. So that's a really, really good reason to stick around and be part of this community as well. We're in the Autumn International Series campaign at the moment, and this is going to be week number 2. And we're going to see a lot of teams that we haven't seen play so far in the Autumn International Series. In particular, we're going to be seeing the Australian Wallabies under Joe Schmidt this weekend for the first time. England, of course, were beaten by New Zealand by a couple of points last weekend, and it's going to be good to see how they bounce back from that particular game as well. So it looks like Steve Borthwick was pretty happy with the team that he selected last weekend, and therefore we haven't seen too many changes at all. In fact, only 2. And those are on the bench. We have seen a switch round in the midfield for England. We're seeing Henry Slade come into 12, Ollie Lawrence to number 13, but I tell you what, at the end of the day, tomatoes, and we'll see how that one plays out. But look, England were pretty close last week, and I know a lot of you said, well, yeah, the All Blacks scored 3 tries and England didn't look like scoring many tries and all the rest of it. Well, you don't have to always score tries to win games. If you've got a good strategy and you can make that strategy work, then you can end up winning rugby games, and that's what this England team is about. And if we go back to last year's Rugby World Cup, they came within a whisker of making it through to the end of that tournament. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back this weekend. I think the only flaw for me last week was Marcus Smith getting subbed off. I was shaking my head at the time, and I probably still am, because he was the best player on the field, I felt, for England last weekend. He was great off the tee with his kicking. And when it came down to the crunch, I think I would have rather had Marcus Smith on the field because of the type of form he was showing in that particular game, and for no other reason than that. That's not the way it panned out. England ended up losing that game, and I think they're going to come out to play this game against Australia with a little bit of vengeance in mind, because I think they want to show everybody how good they can really be, particularly by scoring tries. So I think that's something we're going to see from England that's going to be a little bit different this weekend. Now, if we cast our minds back to the Six Nations competition last year and the way England finished that competition, we saw a different DNA in this England team. We saw the players telling Steve Borthwick that they wanted to play more open, expansive rugby, and they started to deliver. So I think a lot of us were expecting that England to come out and play again this year, and they got into a tight battle again with the All Blacks last weekend. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not the Australian defence is going to be up to keeping this English team out. And when we're talking about that Australian defence, well, a couple of things we need to note. Let's have a look at their team just quickly and see who they've chosen for this weekend. And I think we're starting to see a pretty settled forward pack now from Joe Schmidt. I think he's starting to believe in these players, wanting to see some consistency. In the front row, we've got Bell, Faisler and Tupou. We've got Frost and Williams in at locks. We've got McWright and Valentini as the loosies, and we've got Harry Wilson at number 8. I think this is a really good pack for Australia. Great to see Fraser McWright back in the fray for the Wallabies. Then if we take a look at the Wallabies backline, we've got Jake Gordon back in at number 9, and this has been a position that Joe Schmidt has been playing around with a little bit to see what consistency he can get there. Gordon's been pretty good in terms of scoring tries, getting his backs away, so he's been given a shot. Noah Lolesio is now starting to look like he's the number 10 in favour for the Wallabies, so he's getting a start in this particular game. And then outside it starts getting really exciting. We've got Len Ekitau at number 12, And we've got the new boy coming in, Sua Ali, coming in at number 13. A lot of hype around this kid. He's getting his debut against England this weekend. And then on the wings, we're going to see Callaway and Jorgensen, and at fullback, we're going to see Tom Wright. So this is a pretty exciting backline for me. Hunter Pasami's been left out. He's out with injury for a while, so Len Ekitau's moving into 12, and we're going to see the new boy coming in at number 13. It's going to be all about how they click in offense and defense, and that could be a worrying area as far as I'm concerned. I think this is where England might be able to exploit the Aussies. And then if we have a look at the bench, and as with most teams, it's about the impact that these teams can have in the bench in the last 20 minutes or so of the game. And I think Australia's starting to put together a really good bench. If we have a look at their forwards, they've got Amosa, Slipper, Alalatoa. That's a really good impactful front row to come on. And then you've got the huge guys of Salakai, Lotto, and also Langi Gleeson. So from a forwards point of view, on paper, these guys should have a really good impact. So I'm looking forward to seeing what impact they do have in the second half. And then in the backs, again, I think this is a good combination for the Wallabies. Tate McDermott, he's got a lot of experience to come on at halfback. And then we've got Ben Donaldson and Max Jorgensen to come on and give some more impact around kicking and running as well. So I like the makeup of this Wallabies bench. Now, I think these Wallabies team is only one win away from really turning things around and really getting some momentum behind this team. I think that's all they're lacking at the moment. We saw in that game against the All Blacks, when they really took it to the All Blacks in the second half in Sydney, just what they can do when they get some opportunities. But they were just going into lapses on different occasions, particularly in that Wellington game as well, and it ended up costing the series. Okay, so what do I see happening in this game? Well, first of all, I think the English Lucies are going to have a bigger impact in this game. Watch out for Tom Curry, Chandler Cunningham South, and also Ben Earl. I think they're going to have a very big impact on making sure that England get good quality ball at the breakdown and they're able to jackal the ball away from the Australians. Now, if that is the case, it's going to be interesting to see how Spencer and Smith play this game. Whether Smith is going to put the pressure on the inside backs for Australia, because let's face it, they're pretty raw and green in these positions, and I see that as a potential area of weakness. So it's going to be interesting to see whether we see an England side that's going to be prepared to run the ball at this Australian team. And for me, having our Ollie Lawrence out wider to feed the wingers for England, both in Tommy Freeman and Fa'i Waibaso, is going to be really, really critical to see whether or not they're going to be able to score some more tries in this particular game. So far in this campaign of the Wallabies, we've only seen that one game in Argentina where the Wallabies were really up for it for the total 80 minutes. They won that game, that first test, in the last minute of the game. And I've been wanting to see a little bit more of that. So can they put a full 80 minutes together against England? I don't think they can, and I think that's going to be their potential downfall. I think that England are going to be able to take opportunities for it with Australia when they fall off emotionally throughout this game. And if they have periods of the game at maybe 10 or 15 minutes, then I think that's when England is going to really put them to the sword. So if Australia are able to keep up the defensive effort for that time, then I think they might have a chance. Discipline's going to be another big one for Australia when the pressure comes on from England. Are they going to be able to keep the penalty count down? And more importantly, are they going to be able to keep all their players on the field? So watch out for yellow cards from the Australian team in this particular game. As much as I'd like to see Joe Schmidt's Wallabies have a win in this particular game against England, I think it's a bridge too far. So I'm going to go with my head, and my head says that England's going to win this one. They're going to have too much for too long in this game. I think the English bench, with the couple of changes they made, is going to be too good for this Australian team. So I'm picking a 10 to 12 point win to the English team. If Australia is still in this at half time, it's going to be very interesting. But I suspect they're not going to be, and I suspect we're going to see another big game from Marcus Smith against the Wallabies. He could cause their midfield all sorts of problems. Steve Borthwick will be very keen for this English team to have a very good game against Australia. They've got South Africa up next, which is going to be the pinnacle of their season, I would say. And he's going to want to make sure they're firing on all cylinders. But more importantly, they get a confidence-boosting win against Australia before they take on the Springboks. So expect that to be something that Steve Borthwick's looking forward to. It's not just going to be getting a win on the board. It's going to be doing it in a style and a fashion that gives the players a lot of confidence before they play against South Africa. Now, a few players on each side that I think you should keep your eye on in this particular game. For me, on the English side, watch Maro Itoje. He's playing fantastic rugby at the moment. Watch the back three of the forwards for England, and I'm talking about Chandler Cunningham South, I'm talking about Tom Curry, and I'm talking about Ben Earl. Watch Marcus Smith at 10, and let's see what the outside backs for England are able to do this weekend. Can Tommy Freeman and Fa'i Wabaso get over the line, and are we going to see George Furbank a little bit more integrated in this particular game compared to what we saw against the All Blacks? So there's some English players to keep your eye on throughout this game. On the other side of the fence, though, when it comes to the Wallabies, look for Taniela Tupou in the front row to have a big game. Been very impressed with him this season. He really seems to have got his mental state into a good place, and he's putting a lot of his efforts out there on the field, so it's good to see how he goes. Look for the locking combinations in the Australian side. Frost and Williams have been doing a good job this year, and they shouldn't be underrated in those positions. And Rob Valentini is another one that you always get a good game out of in a Wallaby jersey, so watch for him doing his stuff at number 6. Then when we look at the Australian backline, keep your eye on Lolesio at number 10. A lot of the decision making he does in this game is going to be critical to the outcome of the game and how Australia are playing. And then what is the impact of their new centre pairing of Ikitau and Sua Aali? That's going to be very interesting from an Australian point of view. So plenty to keep your eye on. Tom Wright's another at fullback for Australia. He's great on the counter attack. Give him a little bit of ball in open space and he could thread his way through the English defensive line. So there's a few players to keep your eye on in this particular game. Okay, so now it's time for you to tell me who you think is going to win this game. On our community poll on the page, we have a favourite of England. The majority of people saying England are going to win this one over Australia. But are you siding on Australia's side? And if you are, tell me why. Why do you think they're going to win this particular game? Now, as I've said before, I'm going to be covering all the games across the weekend. We've got South Africa, of course, playing against Scotland. Once those teams are announced, I'll be back with a preview of that game and give you my thoughts around what I think is going to happen. And of course, we've got Wales and Fiji happening as well. But it all kicks off on Friday night with Ireland versus New Zealand at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. So if you haven't checked out my preview video for that game, go and have a look at it now. And I'll be posting more video content regarding all the games this weekend across the Autumn International Series. If you're enjoying my content, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a like and a thumbs up. Helps me with the YouTube algorithm. And I'll be back again really soon with some more content. Until then, stay safe, stay well. Keep enjoying your rugby no matter where you are in the world. And it's time for me to say adios from beautiful Mexico. Until next time, bye for now.